shocking health crisis is generating comparisons between one state and a literal war zone. Mississippi has declared a public health emergency over its infant mortality rate, which is, get this, even higher than that of war-torn Ukraine. And it has people asking why so many babies are dying in Mississippi and what can be done to save them. News Nation's Xavier Walton has the details. I mean, Xavier, how is this even possible in 2025? What's happening in Mississippi?
Marky, that's a great question. And honestly, that's what health experts there are trying to figure out. Ultimately, this is a tough topic that hits close to home for you and also new and expecting mothers across the country. Should mention, the U.S. has made great progress over the past 40 years, but that's as a nation as a whole, cutting the infant mortality rate nearly in half from 10.9% in 1983 down to 5.6 in 2023, the most recent year data available. But that success isn't the same across all 50 states. In fact, 20 states saw more than 6 infants die out of every 1,000 born. That's higher than the national average, and infant deaths have gotten so bad in Mississippi in particular, the state declared an infant mortality rate public emergency. According to the state's health department, the state had 9.7 infant deaths per 1,000 live births last year. It's the highest infant mortality rate in more than a decade. And what's the most staggering, the infant mortality rate for Black children in Mississippi up to 15.2, nearly 3 points higher than the year before. And it's the highest level in years for other non-Hispanic children of color. The infant mortality rate better, but still, more than double the national average at 12.3 infant deaths per 1,000 live births. It's at 6.3 for Hispanic children and nearly in line with the national average for white infants at 5.8. Put it simply, Marky, more than 3,500 infants have died in Mississippi before their first birthday in 2014. Think about that number, more than 3,500 before their first birthday since 2014. That's why so many are just trying to get to the bottom of this growing crisis.
Yeah, impossible to even think about or comprehend, how this is happening this day and age. Xavier Walton, thanks so much.
So as you all have just seen, yes, it appears that Mississippi has declared a public health issue because an abnormal amount of infant fatalities has occurred. Okay, so I did go and ask Mr. ChatGPT some questions in regards to this, and I went and looked at some of the articles as well. So let's go ahead and look at some other stuff that I have found. So it says, since 2014, more than 3,500 infants in Mississippi have died before their first birthday. The emergency declaration highlights the urgency of the crisis. Okay, so here are the key findings in regards to this. All right, it says worsened trend. It says the 2024 rate of 9.7 deaths per 1,000 live births increased to 8.9 in 2023. Okay. It says highest in the nation for several years. Mississippi has had the highest infant mortality rate among all of the U.S. states. Okay. They're also saying that it's the poorest state here as well. It says several racial disparities, of course. Black infants are disproportionately affected, dying at a rate more than double than that of white infants. In 2024, the infant mortality rate was 15.2 per 1,000 live births for Black infants. We have congenital malformations and chromosomal abnormalities, preterm birth and low birth weight, sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, and maternal complications during pregnancies. Okay, so this is also the contributing factors to it. Limited access to prenatal and postpartum care. Many counties lack maternal care services, which also leaves, maternity care deserts as well. Poverty and income inequality in response action plan. Okay, in response and action plan. All right, following the public health emergency declaration, the Mississippi Department of Health announced several strategies to address said crisis. One would be to expand the care, increase access to the prenatal and postpartum care services, community support, launching community health worker programs and home visit initiatives, Safe sleep educating families on safe sleep practices to reduce it, just overall education. So overall, looking at all of this kind of stuff, one of the main things in regards to it is the fact that in terms of care, if we had the whole universal health care, all that kind of stuff, I know, crazy. They're lacking in it. Also the education as well. And of course, you got sprinkling that racism, because if you guys are having the infants die at over double the amount of white kids, you can't just tell me all the black kids are unhealthy. Okay, it's more of a bias thing, and what this person, what this nurse practitioner, what this doctor, what this medical assistant is doing. It just is what it is. Okay, and we already know it's in the deep south as well. So let's go ahead and add that in there. But you do see quite a bit of disparity in regards to that. Also not having the amount of funds that are needed as well, the living conditions, even people who aren't pregnant, just living conditions of people as well, the environmental issues and all that kind of stuff, stress, everything.